Hello, Lance Turner here of ArkansasBusiness.com. This week I sat down with Stuart Jackson, who's an attorney at the Wright Lindsey Jennings law firm in Little Rock. Stuart recently wrote an article for ArkansasBusiness.com asking a simple question. Can employers mandate that their employees receive the COVID-19 vaccine? As you can imagine, that article was very popular with our readers, so I asked Stuart to join me to talk us through all the different pieces of that very question and its implications in the workplace. And we started with a very simple question. Can an employer mandate that its employees get the COVID-19 vaccine?
Obviously, you can't force a person to sit down and get a shot. So in that sense, there can't be a mandate. But can an Arkansas employer, can an Arkansas business mandate its employees get a vaccination, whether it's the Pfizer vaccination or the Moderna vaccination? Yes, they can, with two limited exceptions. But the big answer is yes. They can require vaccinations in the workplace. Of course, the question is, will people actually follow through with that? What will be the employee's reaction to that mandate? And I think it's causing a lot of businesses to kind of bounce back and forth between, do we mandate or do we not mandate?
So in your column for Arkansas Business, you outlined two exceptions that when faced with a mandatory vaccination requirement by an employee can request to opt out. So what are those two considerations and how do those things kind of play out?
There are really two situations that the EEOC recognizes and federal and state law recognize. One is if you have some underlying condition that your doctor will say, you really don't need to be taking this vaccination. This is going to cause a significant risk to your health. One example of that would be a person who has severe allergies, who has had a severe allergic reaction to medicines or bee stings, things like that in the past. If you have a situation like that, you have an employee come in and say, my doctor says I really shouldn't be taking this vaccination. That's a legitimate reason not to get it. And at that point, you have to start talking about, okay, how can we possibly accommodate this situation? And there are any variety of accommodations out there that you can think about. One could be, could this person work from home? Obviously that doesn't work in all situations, but that is one option. Another option, and I'll throw a lot of them out there. Could we isolate this person at work? Could we take extra precautions? Like insist that this person wear a mask full time. And insist that, okay, because you're not able to take this vaccine, we're not going to fire you or anything like that. But we want you to work in this other area that's, apart from the rest of our employees, at least until our employees can get the vaccination. And I tell my clients, really try to bend over backwards when you're trying to accommodate someone, especially under the Americans with Disabilities Act. And I would do the same in this type of situation.
And I guess there are also religious objections that someone could offer as a reason not to take it, right?
You don't see that often, but sometimes there are religions, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a religion. It could be just something called a sincerely held belief that someone has that prevents them from taking a vaccination of any kind. And I think you can also, you don't just have to take the person's word for it. You can dig in a little bit. It's always good. Hey, ask the person about their sincerely held religious belief, about their religion. Why does it cause them, not to be able to take a vaccine?
Do you find that a lot of businesses want to take a mandatory approach and are maybe a little shy about it?
I think that is a huge issue right now. I know we're in the midst, here at the law firm, we're in the midst of trying to decide, do we mandate it? Do we just really try to, motivate our employees to get it? I think eventually people will be lining up as fast as possible to get this vaccine. I think once you see a lot of people getting it. Saw the governor get his shot yesterday, and you see community leaders and business leaders getting these shots. I think people will get more of a comfort level. So hopefully, I would hope that we never have to actually make them mandatory, that, people will do the right thing and go ahead and get the vaccination. But that is a big struggle right now. I'll throw this out as an example. The long-term care industry, I think, is in a real bind right now. I think they would love to make the COVID vaccination mandatory, but the state's not requiring it right now. The state requires that just the regular old flu shot be mandatory, and I think the state even pays for it in the long-term care area. But the state has not mandated it yet in the long-term care industry, and I think those folks are having a real issue because they have some employees who are reluctant to get the vaccine. But then they have, residents and families of residents who probably want everyone vaccinated at their facility. So, it's a real issue right now for a lot of businesses, especially in the healthcare and the long-term care type setting.
You may find that your business is not one that could be sort of exposed to those kind of health considerations, right? I mean, the kind of industry you're in may not necessarily lend itself to a mandatory requirement.
But you're right. I mean, there are some businesses out there that may not really have to have a mandate, but there's some businesses out there, especially if you work in close quarters, maybe a factory setting or a food processing setting. I think those are the businesses that are going to have to make a hard decision on whether to mandate or not.
So what are the issues that do arise if you are going to take a mandatory approach? Like what kind of things do you need to be looking out for as you institute that policy?
Well, obviously, if you have an employee come in and say, I can't take this vaccination for health related reasons, or I can't take this vaccination for religious reasons, I think you have to watch for that. Other issues, again, if you have a mandated policy, are you going to drive off a significant portion of your employees, of your staff? Are they just going to go work somewhere else? And I think people in the long-term care industry are worried about that. If one facility mandates it, but the one across town doesn't, the people who don't want to get a vaccination may just quit and go apply at the other place. So there are legal issues, but there are also business-related issues as well.
What about incentives for getting vaccines? Maybe it's not mandatory, but maybe you want to offer some incentives, things like time off. Maybe I've heard of cash bonuses. I know Dollar General is a retail chain that is offering some of these incentives to encourage people, maybe more carrot than stick. And so how would you go about instituting those things?
I think exactly what you said. Communicate with your staff. Decide what your policy is first. Are we going to mandate it, or are we going to just try to incentivize people to get it? And then talk to your staff. This is, we really encourage this. The leaders of that business should get out front and get their vaccination, and maybe put it on social media or have put it on if you have a business intranet, put it on that. You definitely don't want to have a mass gathering to watch the boss get vaccinated and have a super spreader event. But try to have your leaders get out there and show them getting vaccinated, and then talk about incentives. And like you said, it could be additional paid time off if you get sick despite the vaccination. It could be paid time off to go get the vaccination. Some businesses may bring in staff to actually vaccinate their employees. Some will say, go to Walmart, go to Walgreens, go to your local healthcare provider to get it. Maybe they give paid time off to go do those things. Maybe it could be a small cash gift or a gift card or something like that. I mean, those things I think are very much within bounds in terms of the types of incentives you can throw out there for your employees to get the vaccination.
Okay, finally, so are there any other big picture considerations that employers need to think about when embarking on either policy, mandatory or no? Is there one or two things that they absolutely need to make sure that they do?
Sit down, figure out your policy first, and then communicate it. I would suggest, putting it in writing for one thing, and distributing it by email or posting it or something like that. And if you're going to have a mandatory policy, be aware that there are exceptions that can apply. under the ADA, under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, when it comes to individuals with underlying health conditions or disabilities and individuals with certain religious beliefs or sincerely held beliefs. Second, if you're going with the voluntary policy, do try to incentivize your people to get the vaccine. And if you're the boss, if you're the head of the company, make it a public event. Have pictures taken, have video taken, post it on social media, post it to your intranet if you have one. Communicate, the leaders, the managers getting that vaccine. Communicate what incentives you're willing to give to those people who will get the vaccine, whether it's paid time off of some sort or a gift card or some other gift, and then just continue to do what we've always done. The vaccine, don't stop wearing your mask. Don't stop social distancing. Keep doing that. And I think the Arkansas Department of Health says that just because you've been vaccinated doesn't mean you can take your mask off. Doesn't mean you can stop socially distancing. There's some question, I think, out there as to whether a person who's been vaccinated can still be a carrier of COVID-19. So, keep enforcing those safety standards before, during, and after any vaccination program.